Good morning. I'm not sure what today's date is. I think it's the 12th, Monday of January. It is my birthday month. Yay for that. Another anniversary to celebrate. Getting closer to the end of this side of existence. A morbid way to think about it, I think, but it's truth nonetheless, right? So I had a couple thoughts, but the one that prevails is relationships. And one thing among many that I have considered is that I've had the fine dime pieces. I've had the dream girl and girls. You know, I've sought after and conquered the one that was elusive, and even in my own mind I said, you could never have that. She'd never even be interested, right? I've been there, done that. Eating my cereal this morning. And even in all of that, the thing that remains consistent is shitty attitudes. Chaotic lifestyles. Toxic mindsets. Daddy issues, big time. Almost 99.9% of the time. I also noticed, take this for what it's worth, that predominantly, and I'll be conservative and say 60%, 70% of these ladies were like Leo. Leos, as in the astrological sign. I don't know what, I mean, there's definitely something to it. There's definitely something to it, because I promise you I cannot miss. I have, you know, a Gemini, but, and especially the ones that I have, you know, I have I have my children by two different ladies. Same identical birth dates. I mean, month, day, you know? So there's definitely something to it, in my mind at least. I'm not sure if it works the same for you, but I'm convinced. I mean, you know. But with that being said, if the one, you know, that is so beautiful and got a little spunk to her, and, you know, she seems to catch my eye, and I end up getting with her, we have, you know, a relationship, and then come to find out there's daddy issues, there's chaos, there's disorganization, there's toxic mindsets and all that kind of stuff, then what is the point of it all, right? And a while back I started to think about, and I think we've even discussed, you know, attraction, the law of attraction, etc., etc. The question becomes, why do I attract these or this type? Why do I attract Leos, for that matter, right? Or You know, why? Why? What is going on? You know, and then we had gone into the study of negatives and positives. You know, positive is a push, negative being a draw. You know, and also the law that says for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Wow, this is the first time I got stopped by this light on the way to work. You know, so in considering these things, it's like, what is really going on? You know, what's really the magic that is happening in regards to relationships and what have you? You know, what's really going on? You keep finding yourself attracting the same mess. You know, what power, what consideration is drawing them to us, to you, to me? Especially being that the outcome is usually toxic. Why would you be attracting, why would I be attracting toxicity? I mean, it's definitely not something that I sit around and desire. Right? You generally be like dreaming and wishing and hoping and something nice to happen to you. So I was also listening to another YouTube channel. I think a pretty reputable instructor or whatever, and they were talking about how you know, when the relationship ends, why do you still feel some type of way regarding the individual that you just decided to separate from? In other words, it was toxic, it was chaotic. Why do I still want them? Why do I still feel lost without them? Why, you know, and they dogged me out, and it was a terrible break. You know, why is there still desire there? And in short, they came to this point that it's not the individual themselves that you're actually coveting, but it's those endorphins, you know, that were released during, you know, those makeup and breakup sessions. It was the usual situation, you know, that you become accustomed to. And as you know, anything you do for 20 or 30 days becomes a habit, you know, and it builds or it creates grooves in the mind, you know, that becomes customary. And since there's an endorphin release at each situation, you know, an argument, you know, cussing each other out or getting leverage on the other person because, you know, it just becomes a competitive mess, you know. All of that becomes an addiction after a while. Becomes an addiction. You know, and so that's what you're actually missing from that person, is what you have learned to depend upon as a normal part of life. And so why do we attract these things? You know, these people, these situations, and then, you know, we find ourselves starved for that same attention once they're gone. You know, you break up with them, and for a whole week or two, you're just itching for a text message. You don't even care if it's a text message of toxicity. You just want to hear from the person. That's all you're thinking. And in closing, it said that what you focus on, what you feel within yourself, because it's all you focus and concentrate on every day, day in, day out, hour by hour, is what you're going to manifest. And so it's no wonder that we find ourselves in that same rut. It's no wonder we find ourselves with that same Leo. You know, because that's all we focus on. That's customary, that toxicity, that chaotic relationship, negativity. You know, we go to the same club, we go to the same bar. And since we're all creatures of habit, you know, we find ourselves around similar people. You know? So there's something definitely there. We'll have to explore more into it. I'm always looking to evolve and become a better person myself. So hopefully you're doing the same. All right, so think these things through as I do. All right, make it a better day. Make it a great day. And now you've been made free. The question is, what are you going to do with it? We'll talk to you soon.